I want to talk about the Swedes, number one, who came here to Geneva. There was a big influx of Swedes from 1890 into the 1900s, up to 1910. Then some of them moved away, etc. And they came to America because they were persecuted by the churches. The landlords did not pay their helpers enough that where they could feed their families. And during this same time period, there was a huge famine in Sweden, and in particularly the potato crop. Swedes, depended upon that as a lot for their nourishment. So they finally decided to go to America. A lot of them did. A lot of families would put their money together and take the biggest and the strongest man and send him by himself to America. And then he was, to go out and search for work and then start sending money back to Sweden to support the families that had with him. And eventually he got enough money, and another person came over with. And eventually, they came in bigger and bigger amounts. When the Exodus was finally over with, there were several millions of Swedes that had gone mostly to America, but there were a lot of Canadians that they went to Canada also. Then they moved around and did things. My side of the Hansen family, my mother's family, Grandpa Hansen ended up as a carpenter, and then became owned his own ice house, cutting the ice out of the river and then storing it, and in the summertime went and delivered it to people by the 25 pounds. If you had a small ice box, he had a chipper, and he would sell you 25 pounds. If you had a bigger ice box, he'd do it for 50 pounds. Or if you were rich and you had a huge ice box, he had it in 100-pound boxes. And my grandma, she took in laundry to make money. And they had 3 children. My Aunt Florence, who was born in 1902, my mother in 1904, and my Uncle Frank in 1906. And they were educated up to the 8th grade, but after you got through with 8th grade, you were expected to go out and get a job and help support the family. My grandfather, Hansen, died in 1914 from tuberculosis, which at that time was a pretty common thing. And out of that family, my uncle never did have children. He was married, but my Aunt Florence had 2 children, my cousin Connor and his sister Donna. And my mother married Turi Larsson from Batavia, and they had 2 children, my sister Marlene and myself. And then she had four children, and I had 3 children out of there. The other side of the family, which was my father's side of the family, the Johnsons, lived in Batavia. And my grandma Johnson was married to a man by the name of Anderson, and they had 4 children. And during the time that these people were growing up, the children growing up, Mr. Anderson passed away. So Grandma married my grandpa Johnson, and they had 4 children between them. Okay, so there were 8 children in this family, and my Grandpa Johnson couldn't find work, so he joined the army. There was a battalion of all Swedes, the soldiers were, and he went to Puerto Rico. He did not, during the Spanish-American War, he did not go to Cuba with Teddy Roosevelt, but he was sent to Puerto Rico. But the war was over with so quickly, he was only on duty for 9 months, and then they sent him back home. And then he found work at Lindgren's foundry. And if you know anything about foundries, they're dirty and noisy and sweaty, and they're just ugly places to live. But he did it, you know, because he still had some pretty young people.